Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Don't forget, if you guys like these videos or you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to hit the like button there on the YouTube platform if you're watching through there. It helps out a lot, the YouTube algorithm, so don't forget to smash the like button. Other than that, we had positive Monday in the US markets, negative Tuesday, positive Wednesday, a little bit of a seesaw action due to the fact that we had hope for a vaccine and then they started questioning the results of the actual report. And then we also had positive news on the states opening up again. Thursday, we had lower markets due to the ongoing slower growth in China and the resurgence of the coronavirus in Northeast China as well. Friday was mixed. There was news about China passing a national security law for Hong Kong, which is not bueno at all. There was an agreement between the UK and China in 1997 when Hong Kong, before 1997, was a colony of the US. Or the US was a colony too. Hong Kong was a colony of the UK. And then they gave it back to China in 1997 with the agreement, right? You know, I'm summarizing here, obviously, with the agreement that they were going to keep the freedoms and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And the people in Hong Kong like the way of life that they have. Obviously, you know, the UK culture has definitely done great, in addition, obviously, to the combination of the Chinese culture there. Well, they want to close in. Obviously, Communist China cares more about control than it does about the freedom of its people and the economy. So that definitely caused quite a stir into the markets, and that's why we had mixed markets on Friday. It was big news on Friday. Overall, the Dow for the week was up 3.29%. It's negative 14.27% for the year. S&P 500 is up 3.20%, negative 8.52 for the year. The NASDAQ is up 3.43%, and the only one up for the year at 3.92%. The major European markets rose over 2% on Monday, after we had a loosening of the coronavirus lockdowns. It definitely allowed for a boost in the market and sentiment, even though it hasn't been contained just yet. The European markets were mostly positive. The biggest winner for the week was the DAX at positive 5.81%. Latin American markets, the biggest winner was Brazil, the Bovespa at 5.95%, even though now they're getting ravaged by the coronavirus. In Africa and the Middle East, Nigeria is up 5.58%. The one market that's negative is Egypt at negative 1.75%. In the Asian markets, we got Asian markets that are mixed. Malaysia was up 2.37%. Hong Kong was down 3.80%. And for all my traders in the Philippines, that market was down 0.04%. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency news. We did have the halving. If you guys don't know what that is, essentially it reduces the number, the velocity, I should say, at which new Bitcoins are being issued. A lot of analysts were saying that it was supposed to go up, of which it did not. It actually went down for the week, 1.60% at 9,212 with 7 cents. That's the number as of about Friday evening. Financial and banking news. Markets are encouraged by the Fed Reserve Chairman Powell's remarks over the weekend. He says that we're going to see most likely a gradual recovery, and his promise that if we need more stimulus, he will definitely have it on the way. And also he said that the most important data for the U.S. economy right now was the medical metrics to hard-hit sectors like travel and entertainment. China's also doing a stimulus. They're doing about 3.6 trillion won, or about $500 billion to be able to help its economy and create 9 million jobs. France and Germany also agreed to a stimulus of $545 billion in aid package, helping the EU regions that are hardest hit by the pandemic. It boosted the euro, and there was big news as well. Germany has never wanted, if you guys don't know, you know, right now Venezuela has gone, this is the most recent example. Venezuela right now is going through hyperinflation. Back when I was a lot younger, the most serious case was Zimbabwe. When I visited, I still have one of those $1 trillion notes, which ironically you buy for $20 or whatever it was that I bought it for. And now Argentina is starting to, they're at 50%, if I'm not mistaken, inflation rate. So the Germans, they remember what hyperinflation was like. After the war, during the Weimar Republic, they had hyperinflation. So they like to have, those Germans, they like to have those balanced budgets. So they have never agreed to, they have never wanted to agree to, they have never been kosher with being able to have a common debt zone where literally Greece gets debt out with the EU, and then essentially Germany is stuck paying the bill, right? Because we all know Greece doesn't really pay its bills. So they've never wanted to have mutual debt for that reason, right? They still remember what the hyperinflation was like, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now there's a big change that Chancellor Merkel said that the bonds that are issued by the European Commission will be repaid from the EU budget. So this is actually the first time, a historic step for Germany to be able to accept something like that. Even though there's a little asterisk on there, this is a part of the money that they already had budgeted for the EU anyway. Argentina, in true Argentinian fashion, has hit the 9th sovereign default of their history, as a lot of the officials and the new government that went in tries to restructure the $65 billion foreign debt. That proposal that they had to be able to go ahead and renegotiate was firmly rejected by its creditors. Now they failed to pay a $500 million bond coupon, of which they have defaulted on. I don't understand these people, right? You think the 9th time is going to be different? Maybe the 10th time. Let's borrow them some more money. Maybe they'll pay on time this time. U.S. Treasury Department auctioned its first 20-year bond since 1986 on Wednesday. The national debt now exceeds more than $25 trillion. It's up 15% since a year ago. This is part of the reason why I told you guys that we're going to have this huge debt bomb. The crisis that we're going through now is going to get much worse in another 4 years from now. I'm actually thinking about doing a few videos on that, about how we got here and where we're going and why it's going to be worse. So if you guys want to listen to that, let me know. Hit the like button as well. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button because that's great for the YouTube algorithm. And other than that, last week we had an additional 2.4 million individuals file for U.S. unemployment benefits. In commodities, U.S. oil I should say, overall, U.S. and international, is up at over 2-month highs due to the fact that Saudi Arabia and OPEC, they did agree to the production cut. There's also been a little bit of a decrease in the U.S. production as well, especially once the market crashed. If you guys remember that oil went negative for the May contract. Chinese demand is also returning to pre-crisis levels, which is a good piece of news for oil. Part of the reason why it's going up as well. For the week, U.S. crude is up 13.86%, even though for the year it's down 45.17%. And international Brent is up 8.18%, while it's down 46.81% in 2020. There's one of the highest profile fudge managers in Europe, Crispin O'Day. Fancy name there. He's probably British. Oh, my name is O'Day. Christian O'Day. Christian O'Day is saying that he believes that governments are planning to ban private gold ownership if they lose control of inflation due to the coronavirus. Now, he says that they may feel the need to do that to be able to create a stable unit of account for world trade, essentially not allowing people to use gold and silver to force them to use the new world currency. Don't forget to get your chip injected into your body as well. They're probably going to come up with that next. Precious metals for the week. Gold prices are surging this year. I just closed some positions finally in the miners. If you guys remember, I uploaded a video about the losses that I had recently as well. Take a look at that. Gold is up 0.54% for the week at 1,733. It's up 15% for the year. Remember that the Dow and also the S&P are down for the year. Silver is up 3.47% to $17.29. It actually just touched $18 overnight. I believe it was Wednesday night. In political news, we have protests for the Israeli proposals that received U.S. approval to annex parts of the territory in the West Bank. Palestinians suspended their contacts with the CIA after announcing an end to the security coordination with Israel and the United States, as promised by Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu. In economic news, Fed Chairman Powell is saying that the U.S. economy can easily shrink at an annual pace of 30% in quarter two. Unemployment may peak at 25%, and he also stated that certain parts of the economy, certain parts of the economy are going to recover quickly, but other parts like travel and entertainment are probably going to lag behind. He predicted that all of this is predicated behind not getting a second wave of the coronavirus. And even though a complete recovery may require a vaccine, which is something that has remained a little bit elusive. Remember that with the flu, we have the flu every year, right? There's tens of thousands of people that die every year of the flu, and we never have the vaccine for the flu. Everybody takes a vaccine, but the vaccine every year doesn't apply for the current strain, so they have to continue creating more and more flu vaccines because every year the flu strain is different. So there's some people that are saying that this might be what happened with the coronavirus. Well, while it might just keep mutating and changing, but it's going to be with us forever. Other than that, millions of additional Americans are likely have filed for unemployment benefits last week. Due to the fact that we're having a second leash of a second wave of layoffs. One of the things I read recently as well is that United, we have a situation here where I don't think it's going to be a V recovery or a U recovery. I think it's going to be more of a W, because there's a lot of employers that are holding on to their employees because of the government stimulus, the PPE and the emergency loans. So United Airlines, for example, recently reported they only need, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2,000 of their employees of the current 25,000. That's 12% of the workforce. So what's going to happen when all the government money runs out? We can't just continue to print more money endlessly over time. Eventually it's going to stop, right? Before they started again in the next crisis. So what's going to happen to all these people that now have a job? They're getting paid right now, but they're eventually going to let go because obviously a company can't continue to pay all of its employees if it's not making any money. So that's why I don't think this is going to get better. This is probably going to get worse. Other than that, Japan, third largest economy in the world, is officially in a recession after the news that it shrank at an annualized rate in quarter one at 3.4%, following a revised 7.3% contraction in the fourth quarter. That was triggered by an increase in the national sales tax. You guys can see that higher taxes are not a good thing. Not a good thing. And even though they're already warning for a far deeper loss in the current quarter, obviously due to the self-imposed quarantine. In corporate news, U.S.-based car rental Hertz, which was founded in 1918, has officially filed for bankruptcy. They have $24 billion in debt as of the end of March, unable to generate any revenue due to the fact that the business has been shut down due to the pandemic. Nobody's moving around and renting cars. They've laid off 12,000 workers, furloughed 4,000, and cut vehicle acquisitions by 90%, which, remember, 6% of the economy is the auto industry. The U.S. Rental car companies, Hertz and Alamo and all these guys buy, 4, 5, 6, 7% of the entire auto industry's cars. This is going to have a ripple effect throughout the economy as well. They're not going to be doing very well. If you guys are interested in buying cheap cars, though, you can go to hertzcarsales.com, and they have most of their car sales for sale on that website if you guys want to get a good deal on a car. Valuation of the owner of TikTok, the company called ByteDance, rose to about $100 billion after recent private share transactions. It's up from $75 billion from a funding round 2 years ago. And in trade news, China reiterated its pledge to commit to the first phase of the trade deal with the U.S. Besides the setbacks due to the coronavirus and the tensions of, between the U.S. and China escalating, I should say Trump and China escalating, Premier Li Keqiang, I think I said that right, told an annual gathering of lawmakers in Beijing on Friday that they will continue to boost economic and trade cooperation with other countries for mutual benefit. In technology, Mark Zucks, announced that Facebook is going to shift to a permanent remote work system for all of its employees as it looks to recover from the coronavirus. They would lower salaries as well if people are moving to lower income states or countries. Zuckerberg, always looking out for the people, aren't you, Zucks? Astronomers this week, this is actually really interesting, have seen what appears to be a planetary beginning. For the first time, a huge disk of dust and dense gas is surrounding a newly formed star as the planet is in process of being born. In investment news, Taiwan Semiconductor, the world's largest chip maker, is halting its orders to Huawei due to the sanctions from the U.S. It accounted for about 15 to 15 to 20% of its annual revenue. And Huawei is Taiwan Semiconductor's second largest client, only after Apple. U.S. Industries, I mentioned to you before, is 6% of the economic activity in the United States. They came back online after being idle for nearly 2 months. General Motors is saying that they're going to start with just one shift, where Tesla is going gung-ho and they're throwing everything at their factories. By the way, I drove a Model X recently. One of the traders, one of my good friends, and I consider him family Iceman. That self-driving is extremely impressive. Joe Rogan, the highest paid podcast in the world and one of the most popular, Joe Rogan Experience, announced news that they signed a multi-year $100 million licensing agreement to bring the podcast to Spotify exclusively. You're going to start hearing all that as of September 1st. They're going to have all their services on Spotify, and by the end of the year, it's going to be exclusive to Spotify, which they have a video version as well for the podcast. International events, Brazil's total number of coronaviruses is now the second largest in the world. As of Saturday, they had 310,000 infected people, 20,000 deaths, and those numbers may actually be significantly higher due to the fact that their testing is not very good, let's say. Thursday, the U.S. is announcing its intention to withdraw from a 35-nation Open Skies treaty. They pointed the finger at Russia, obviously, because that's what they're used to. That's probably true. We don't know, but that's what they're saying. The government is saying that Russia reportedly violated the pacts, the terms of the treaty, which allows unarmed surveillance flights over member countries, and they're going to pull out within 6 months based on the withdrawal terms. Cyclone Amphan hit India and Bangladesh to be one of the most powerful storms in over a decade. Winds gusting at over 115 miles an hour, 185 kilometers per hour. And in unusual facts this week, an ultra-rare species of bee was last spotted in Florida nearly a decade ago. They rediscovered it this spring. It was identified in 2011, but they weren't sure that it was still around. And the species has only been recorded in 4 locations in Florida, 16 square miles of pine scrub habitat. And the Earth's magnetic field is mysteriously weakening in various locations. Over the last 2 centuries, it's lost nearly 10% of its strength. An article that was reported on Zero Hedge is stating that there's an area between South Africa and Brazil, and also another area around South Africa where it's becoming extremely weak. Now, if you guys don't know, scientists say that we have a core in the Earth of molten iron, and that essentially is what creates the magnetic field around the Earth, and the magnetic field is what keeps us safe. That's what stops a lot of the sun's rays and other harmful things coming into the atmosphere. And now it's weakening. And if you guys remember, the actual magnetic North Pole, not the true North Pole, but the magnetic North Pole is actually moving at a much faster pace towards Siberia. So this is, some are saying that, quote, a multi-century pole reversal has already begun, even though I believe it's probably not going to happen in 100 years. It's probably going to be a lot faster than that. And Tres Unidos, which is a indigenous village in Brazil's Amazon rainforest, kept all of their visitors out, hoping isolation would keep the village safe. But coronavirus arrived regardless. So it looks like we're all going to get it. So that's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to hashtag Ask Marcello for all the questions, and we'll see you next week.